Good morning. Welcome to North Country. And I want to talk a little bit this morning about porcupines, Latin word for quill pig, and some of the reasons that we try to avoid them as much as possible. One, of course, is that dogs naturally, in many cases, like to get into them, and the best prevention is to not have them get into them in the first place. We break our dogs off a lot of different game. We break them off of deer, coyotes, moose, whatever else you don't want them to run, but sometimes we overlook the lowly porcupine. And it's very important that we don't do that, because once they get into that porcupine, one of two things occur. Sometimes they'll break themselves off the porcupine, and other times they'll want to eat everyone they come in contact with. That's what we want to try to avoid. The best information that I can give you is to make contact with a porcupine before your dog does. They're nocturnal. They feed at night. They travel at night. Usually by driving down a gravel road in the evening, you can find a porcupine someplace, and if you've got your little dog with you, that's a good time. That's a good time to give them some lessons, maybe with an e-collar. Okay, so that eventually what happens is that porcupine is just another obstacle in the road to him, or another obstacle in the woods. Unfortunately, what happens is our bobcats and our bears and our porcupines all inhabit the same areas. They all live in the same place: rock ledges, stumps, hollow trees. And in many cases, what will happen is some of our game animals, like bobcats, will actually go to a den that they know is inhabited by a porcupine just to mess the dogs up. Our dogs go through bear dens with a bobcat just to escape the dogs and stir up the whole shooting match. Let's do the best job that we can to actually prevent them from running these porcupines, and worse than that, getting a mouthful of quills. Now, just to dispel some misbeliefs, porcupines do not shoot their quills at the dog. They actually, the dog makes contact with the quill, and the quill is released onto the dog and into the dog in many cases. Removal of these quills, another misbelief is that if you cut the quill, you'll somehow relieve the suction and the quill will come out easier. Just an old wives' tale, not a fact at all. The quills are barbed, they're sharp, and they're embedded in the dog's mouth. In many cases inside the dog's mouth, or nose, eyes, everywhere. We like to remove the quills when we have to with our first line of defense is a veterinarian. Try to get your dog to a vet as soon as possible. Unfortunately, what happens is we don't have that luxury in many cases because of time or location or distance. If you can get those quills out as soon as possible, you're going to be head and shoulders ahead of the game. Over the years, I've done it in many ways. Of late, I use what is known as a jaw spreader. And this jaw spreader actually is adaptable to any size dog. They're available through veterinarian supply houses throughout the country. They're not expensive. They're about 20 bucks. And what that will do is it'll keep the dog's mouth open so that you can get your tool in there, a little force nips here, a little hemostat, get that in there and pull those quills out. Now, it's a lot easier if he can't close his mouth. It's easier on you, at least. And then get him to a vet as soon as possible, if necessary, depending on the amount of quills. If he's just got a few quills in him, that's one thing. If his mouth and throat and eyes and ears and everything else are loaded with quills, please get as many out as you can and get him to a vet. That's your first line of defense, the veterinarian. And then, of course, what's going to happen is he's going to recommend an antibiotic. I like to give him a shot of penicillin immediately and then put him on cephalexin. Cephalexin probably for 10 days. That's up to your vet to decide, not to me. All I'm suggesting is if you can't get to a vet, try to do the best job you can in the removal of those quills. And a jaw spreader will certainly help you do that. There's different configurations of these jaw spreaders. This is just the one I use. It's stainless steel. It's bulletproof. It's easy. It's hooked onto their eye teeth and their jaws are open, and that allows you to get some of those out. Because left unattended, those quills will work themselves into that dog's into his hide, and then eventually and possibly into one of the organs. It can get into his heart, it can get into his liver, it can get into his lungs, it can blind him. It can do a lot of bad things to your dog. So please, we have seen some dogs lost because the quills have worked their way into the heart. They only travel in one direction, and that's forward. So please do the best job you can of removing these quills. Again, veterinarian is where you want to go, if at all possible. And if you can't, you might want to use some of these other measures to get rid of those quills. Got a little, this is Drama. Come here, Drama. Drama's a sweetheart, but she's a Mike Collie bred female plot, and all she wanted to do is eat every porcupine she came in contact with, as you might have noticed in the picture that my daughter's inserted into this little video here this morning. Drama's a sweetheart. She doesn't bother him anymore, but she certainly had her bout with him over the years. She's a 4-year-old female, does a really nice job right now, and doesn't bother any porcupines, do you? Huh? No. But she's hell on bears and cats. We just wanted her to be that's what Drama looks like now. And by the way, when they do get into these quills, they get into these porcupines, sometimes it's actually weeks or even months while you're still pulling quills that migrate to different areas. Sometimes a quill, you think you have them all, you don't. So what I'll do on a regular basis is I'll run my hand over their head, over their mouth, inside their lips. Okay, wherever I can stick my hand, I'll put it and see if I can find a quill. And at that point, I'll remove it. Usually at that stage of the game, I can remove them one at a time or two at a time. There's not really any need to go to a vet. But they normally won't get them all. There'll be quills that they just will not be able to get out at first, initially, but eventually they'll work themselves out. And you can get a feel on them, pull them out. All right, thank you so much for watching our video, and we hope that it's shared some information with you. Not pretending to be a veterinarian. Your first line is get to the vet, and if you can't, take the emergency necessary steps that you need to. Come on, kennel up. Nice girl, good girl, kennel up. And this is all we got to say. Please subscribe to this channel and click on the bell for any future updates. Thank you again for watching my video. Have a wonderful day. I want to thank you for tuning into my video, and I hope you found it informative. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell for some future updates.